today's lesson is on writing equations for parallel and perpendicular lines. The first thing we need to talk about is parallel lines and perpendicular lines. So you'll notice the graph on the left, that is an example of parallel lines. Parallel lines, commonly people will say they are lines that do not touch. We would say officially they are lines in the same plane that do not intersect. But what do we know about parallel lines and their slope? If I am looking at 2 points on these lines, and how they rise and run from one point to the next, hopefully you could see that the rise over run would be the same for both. So parallel lines have the same slope. And then perpendicular lines. So perpendicular lines are lines that intersect at 90-degree angles. So when you are told lines are perpendicular, you know there's a 90-degree angle there. Their slopes have opposite reciprocal slopes. So that's how we define their slopes. So we would say perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Now what an opposite reciprocal is review. If you are given the slope of, let's say, 1/3, the opposite reciprocal of that, so opposite means opposite sign. So if it's positive, we would make it negative. So the opposite reciprocal of that slope would be negative. And then reciprocal, you flip the top and bottom. So numerator and denominator flip-flop. So it would be -3/1 or -3. So that's how we find the slopes of those two different types of lines. Now to apply that, really the only new thing is finding the slope. We have done point slope form, slope-intercept form, standard form, and so we're going to be writing the equations of lines and putting them in all three forms, given that they're parallel to this line. So it says, write the equation of the line that is parallel, that's step A, and B is perpendicular to the line given and passes through the given ordered pair. So this line they're giving me right here is, I'm going to use this line, and first I'm going to write the equation of the line that's parallel to this one. So if I want to find a line parallel to this one, I would know that means that their slopes are the same. So I'm given this ordered pair, and now I know for my parallel, I'm going to use that ordered pair, and I'm going to use the same slope, so -1/2. For perpendicular, and again, and this is the symbol for parallel that I just drew. This is the symbol for perpendicular, you might remember that from geometry. But for perpendicular then, I'm going to use the ordered pair they give me, and then I'm going to actually use the opposite reciprocal for the slope. So the opposite of -1/2 would be positive, and then when I flip that 1/2 it would be 2/1. This is all that's new. You have done the rest of this. So from here, for each of these, you're going to put them in point slope form, slope-intercept form, and standard form. So to do that, I'm going to start with the first one, and I'm going to go in point slope form. So let's start with my parallel. Point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So here's my x1, my y1, and my m. So I would have y minus 5 equals, and then I'm going to put my m in there. My m is -1/2 times x minus 1. There's my answer in point slope form. So your first answer they give it for, I'd block that in. There's one answer. Now to move to slope-intercept form, I distribute the -1/2. So I would have y minus 5 equals -1/2 x plus half. -1/2 times -1 would be a +1/2. Add 5 to both sides. Slope-intercept form would be y equals -1/2 x plus 5.5. Or if you wanted to write that as 11/2, that would work too. So there's my answer for slope-intercept form. Standard form, I would add a half x to both sides. So now I have half x plus y equals, I'm going to leave it as 11/2 because I like improper fractions instead of a mixed number of 5.5. And now I'm in standard form, but I'm breaking a rule. That rule would be that I have fractions. So I would multiply by the common denominator, which is 2. Distribute that 2 to all three parts. So I have 1x plus 2y equals 11. 2 times 11 halves is 11. There's my answer in standard form. So there's one problem, all three forms written out. You can see those there. That's for parallel. Now you also might be asked for perpendicular. So coming over here to do my perpendicular, I am going to take the same x1, y1 and my slope, and I'll go y minus y1, so minus 5 equals m. So the only difference is I'm replacing the m with a 2 times x minus 1. Notice my point slope 1 over here is the exact same as this one, except the slope's changed, nothing else. So this is my answer for point slope form. Now for slope-intercept form, I would need to distribute my 2. So y minus 5 equals 2x minus 2. And then I would add 5 to both sides. Y equals 2x plus 3. There's my answer for slope-intercept form. To go to standard form, I would subtract 2x from both sides. So negative 2x plus y equals 3. Hopefully you recognize that I am breaking the rule that says I cannot have a negative leading coefficient. So I will multiply this equation by negative 1. And I would have 2x minus y equals negative 3. And that's my answer in standard form. So all that work for one problem. The second problem we are not going to actually do together. I'm going to have you guys try that one, and then I'm going to just write the answer down for you. So pause the video, try that problem, and then I'll have the answers written down in a minute for you. So for your parallel, we have y minus 2 equals 2 times x plus 1. That's my point slope. Slope-intercept, you should have gotten y equals 2x plus 4. And standard is standard is 2x minus y equals negative 4. For perpendicular, I would have y minus 2 equals negative 1/2 times x plus 1. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3/2, or 1.5. And x plus 2y equals 3. If you didn't get those three answers, you can ask me for help on those tomorrow. Don't erase your work. Do not erase what you did, because you probably did lots of stuff right. You just made one little mistake, and that's what I'll find for you tomorrow. I don't want you to erase everything and think you did everything wrong and had no clue, when really you probably have a really good clue, just one little mistake. So leave those and I'll help you with that tomorrow. Number 3 then, you will notice, why are we doing number 3? It looks the same as number 2. What's different in 3 is that my original equation they give me, I don't know the slope. They have not given me the slope of this line because it's not in slope-intercept form, it's in standard form. And in standard form, I can't just find the m, really simple. So what we have to do first, this is actually going to be more work for us, because before I can do anything, I need to find the slope of this line that was given to me. In order to do that, I'm going to move it from standard form to slope-intercept form. So I'm going to minus x from both sides. So I have 3y equals negative x plus 6. And then I'm going to divide everything by 3 to get the y by itself. If you think that this right here looks a little bit confusing, make sure you put a 1 in there, so you realize that when you write this, it's y equals negative 1/3 x instead of negative x over 3, and then 6 divided by 3 is 2. So this is in fact the same line as what was given. So when I'm looking for my slope, I see that the slope is negative 1/3. So for my parallel line, I'm going to use the ordered pair 2, 3, and I'm going to use the same slope because parallel lines have the same slope. And for my perpendicular line, I'm going to use the ordered pair 2, 3, but I'm going to use the opposite reciprocal slope. So opposite, if it's negative, I'm going to make it positive, and then when I flip it, it's 3 over 1 instead of 1 over 3. I'm going to let you finish number 3, do that problem all the way through, and then I'm just going to write the answers down again for you. So hit pause, and then go ahead and do that. So for the first one, your point slope form is y minus 3 equals negative 1/3 times x minus 2. Slope intercept is y equals negative 1/3 plus 11/3. And standard is x plus y. Make that look a little better. X plus 3y equals 11. For your perpendicular, your point slope form would have been y minus 3 equals 3 times the quantity x minus 2. Slope-intercept is y equals 3x minus 3. And standard is 3x minus y equals 3. So again, if you have anything you did wrong on that, do not erase. Bring it to class tomorrow. We'll look at it together and find the one little thing you probably did wrong. Last one we're going to do together is number 4. And again, it's one of those special ones, you know. So when you look at the equation, you see that we are given y minus 5 equals 0. Hopefully, you can look at this and say, okay, I think this is a horizontal line. Look at that. If I solve for y, I get y equals 5. This is a horizontal line. So now, instead of using my algebra or trying to figure stuff out, which I can do, I can come over here and say, okay, parallel. Negative 3, 2, my slope. What's the slope of a horizontal line? 0. So I could try that. And then I could do perpendicular, and I could say, okay, I'm going to use negative 3, 2 again. Well, what's the opposite reciprocal of 0? 0? I mean, that doesn't really make sense, right? So let's think about this logically. If I have a graph, and they just gave me the line y equals 5, okay, that's this line right here. That's the line I'm given. What type of line would be parallel to this one? A horizontal line, right? This is a horizontal line. I have another horizontal line that would be parallel to it. So now when I'm looking, they said it's the ordered pair negative 3, 2. So that's the ordered pair I'm working with. So now, as we are looking at this, sorry, I paused it, so there might be a little delay here. I'm looking at the ordered pair negative 3, 2. If I'm looking at that ordered pair, I'm just going to plot that. Negative 3, 2. Here we go. Where can I draw a line that we know is horizontal, right? Because we said what's parallel to a horizontal line is another horizontal line that goes through this point. Well, look at, that's it, isn't it? That's the only line I can draw. What is this line? Y equals 2. So now look at my ordered pair as given. The y value is 2. My equation is y equals 2. Now when it asks you to write this in all three forms, you can give it to me just as y equals 2. Technically, we're going to just leave it like this because that's how we like to leave horizontal and vertical lines. We try not to get them equal to 0, so this will work for all three. And if I'm giving it to you on a test, I'm not going to ask you for all three forms. I'm going to ask just for one. And so there's my parallel. Now think of the vertical, because that's where I was a little confused here. When I was perpendicular, excuse me. When I was trying to do the perpendicular slope, well, what type of line would be perpendicular to a horizontal line? Hopefully the only answer you would have would be a vertical line, right? And so as I'm looking at this, if I'm trying to pick up a vertical line that goes through the red dot, the only one that could go is right here. Otherwise, a vertical line won't go through the red dot. So where is that happening? That's happening at x equals negative 3, the x coordinate of the point I was given. So even though I drew this nice little graph picture here for you, you don't have to look at that. You wouldn't have to think of it that way. You can look at your original problem. Look at where that x went, right there. Look at where that y went, right there. So I can use my original problem to get that. Now be careful, because sometimes they're going to give you a vertical line to start. And you're going to try and answer the same way we did this problem, because you just get that stuck in your head. You have to actually think about it before you answer. If you start with a vertical line, another vertical line would be parallel to it. So your x equals would be here, and your y equals would be here.